43% of UK businesses reported a cyber breach or attack in the last year. Bad enough. The bit that should make small business owners properly uncomfortable is this. After a year of improvement, the basics have slipped backwards.
And that's after a year when breach news was everywhere. M&S, Co-op, hospitals, nurseries, help desks getting conned. If awareness is up, why are the boring controls going down?
Because hearing a lesson and putting the lesson into the diary are not the same thing. People confuse, "Oof, that's awful," with, "Right, I've actually fixed my login setup."
It's the oldest human habit, isn't it? We watch the house on the next street burn, murmur that smoke alarms are important, and never change the battery in our own.
Right. Today we're talking about the 2025 to 2026 Cybersecurity Breaches Survey and why small business cyber hygiene seems to be going backwards when it ought to be doing the exact opposite.
He's the guy with the plan for your online life. Keeps your data safe, cuts through the strife. Small biz owners, yeah, this is your guide. Cyber threats, beware, no place to hide. The small business cybersecurity guy, guarding your world with a sharp eagle eye. Tips and tricks to keep your systems tight. Stay secure, stay strong in the digital fight.
Welcome to the show. I'm Noel Bradford with Mauven MacLeod, Lucy Harper and Graham Falkner. We're getting into the UK government's Cybersecurity Breaches Survey 2025 to 2026, published on the 30th of April. This is one of the few bits of cyber data I actually look forward to, which probably says something tragic about my hobbies.
It says you've spent 40 years in IT and made peace with disappointment. But yeah, this survey matters. It's not vendor fluff. It's not a bloke on LinkedIn yelling that AI has changed everything. It's a proper, structured snapshot of what UK businesses and charities are actually doing.
And the sample's not tiny either. 2,112 businesses, 1,085 charities. Fieldwork between August and December 2025. So when we say, "this is the picture," we're not pulling it from 3 dramatic headlines and a vibes-based panic.
Which is important, because headlines distort. They give us lightning strikes. The survey gives us the weather. And the weather, if you'll forgive the gloomy forecast, suggests a lot of small firms know cybersecurity matters in the abstract, while leaving the windows open in the rain.
Exactly. We're not doing a full page turn of the report. We're focusing on what small businesses need to hear, what the numbers say, why some of them have moved the wrong way, and what you can do this week without needing an enterprise budget, a strategy deck, or some consultant charging you $7,000 to tell you to turn on MFA.
And we'll push on the uncomfortable bit too, because this isn't just people need more awareness. The survey actually says awareness has been heightened by big attacks in the news. So if awareness is there and controls still slip, then the problem's deeper than ignorance.
That's the bit I care about. Where the gap opens up between what owners mean to do and what gets done before someone clicks a fake Microsoft login page at 4:30 on a Thursday.
Then let us proceed, as all good British institutions do, with a mixture of evidence, mild alarm, and the faint hope that a checklist might save the day.
Right, the headline beneath the headline. Small businesses have gone backwards on the basics. Risk assessments dropped from 48% to 41%. Formal cybersecurity policies dropped from 59 to 52. Business continuity plans that cover cyber dropped from 53 to 44.
That 44 from 53 is the one that sticks for me. 9 points gone in a year. Not on some advanced technical wizardry, on having a written idea of what happens if your systems fall over.
I'm going to remember that one. Less than half of small businesses have a continuity plan covering cyber after a year when disruption was on the evening news.
And this isn't a case of, well, maybe incidents are rare now, so people relaxed. 43% of businesses overall still reported a breach or attack in the last 12 months. That's roughly 612,000 businesses. So the threat didn't vanish. The admin just lost the fight for attention.
Yep, and one of the survey lines people should not skip past is repeat victimisation. For organisations that experience cybercrime, the median number of crimes in a year was 3. 3. That matters because a lot of owners treat the first incident like a vaccination. We got hit, we learned a lot. Did you? Or did you just have a miserable Tuesday?
A miserable Tuesday is not a control. That's going on a mug.
It bloody should. I've seen this for years. Company gets phished. They reset passwords. Everyone feels shaken. Someone says, well, that was a wake-up call. Then 6 weeks later, same shared mailbox, same no MFA, same nobody checking sign-in logs. They've mistaken emotional impact for implementation.
I saw this constantly in consulting. People will tell you, very sincerely, we took it seriously after that incident. And what they mean is they had 3 meetings, bought 1 bit of software, and added a paragraph to induction nobody reads. They don't mean they tested Restore, or removed old admin accounts, or fixed the process that caused the mess.
It's a theatrical version of safety. The set looks convincing from the stalls, but if you lean on the door, it's painted plywood.
And the maddening part is the timing. We had big breach stories all year. Media coverage was intense. The survey's own qualitative interviews say organisations felt their awareness was heightened because it had been in the news a lot, especially the retail attacks. So the atmosphere was, cyber risk is real. But the paperwork, the plans, the basic hygiene, those slipped.
Which tells you awareness on its own is useless. Everybody's aware exercise is good for them. Doesn't mean they're at the gym. Same here. Knowing cyber matters doesn't create a risk assessment. Somebody has to sit down and do the bloody thing.
Let me try to explain that back. You're saying the survey isn't showing a failure of messaging, it's showing a failure of conversion. Businesses can now say the right things about cyber, but they still haven't converted that into habits and documents and tested routines.
Exactly, that's the gap. And once you see that gap, the next question isn't, how do we scare people more? It's, what keeps beating cyber on a normal working day?
I'll start with the unfashionable answer. I don't think this is mostly ignorance. I think it's overload. Owner-managed firms are drowning. Payroll, VAT, staffing, stock, cash flow, 1 van off the road, 1 person's off sick, someone's laptop dies, and cyber becomes one more important thing that isn't screaming the loudest today.
A tyranny of the immediate.
Exactly. And the survey gives us a quote that nails it. A small health and social care business basically says the economy's put a lot of strain on the company. And they can't just say, here's 18 grand, go buy new systems. That number, 18 grand, tells you how cyber lands in a lot of businesses. It arrives wearing a price tag before it arrives wearing a solution.
I half agree. Money matters. But I don't buy the idea that this is all overload. Some of it is plain inertia. Risk assessments aren't always expensive. Writing down who you call in the first hour of an incident isn't expensive. Turning on MFA isn't expensive in most Microsoft and Google setups. Plenty of owners aren't blocked by cost, they're blocked by not getting round to it.
But not getting round to it is still overload a lot of the time, Noel. If you're the managing director and the ops manager and the unofficial IT decision maker and the person approving invoices, then every task competes with revenue. Cyber often loses because it feels preventative, and preventative work is easy to postpone when today's fire is visible and tomorrow's breach is theoretical.
Up to a point. But plenty of breaches aren't theoretical anymore. 43% isn't theoretical. 612,000 businesses isn't theoretical.
May I be annoying and say it's all 3? Ignorance, inertia, overload. A little tragic trio. Some owners genuinely don't know where to start. Some know perfectly well and keep bumping it to next month. Some are so knackered by the state of business that anything not attached to today's cash flow gets deferred.
And little tragic trio is annoyingly good, Graham. But yeah, the survey points in that direction. Cybersecurity is still a high priority for senior management in 72% of businesses overall. So the stated priority is there. And board-level responsibility in businesses is 31%, up from 27% last year. So some governance indicators improve.
Which is fascinating, because it means senior people are talking about it, while smaller firms are still slipping on practical basics. That's the exact picture of intention outrunning execution.
And size matters. Large businesses are much more engaged. 100% of large businesses saying cyber is a high priority for senior management. 92% of medium. Then the overall business number is 72, because the small and micro end drags it down. No surprise there. Bigger firms have dedicated people. Small firms have Sharon from finance, who's now also looking after cyber.
Justice for Sharon. She did not ask for this.
Poor Sharon, keeper of invoices, passwords, and fate itself.
But here's where I think Noel's right to be blunt. Good intentions are being mistaken for protection. An owner saying, cyber is important to me, is about as useful as me saying, hill fitness is important, while staying on the sofa with a biscuit. The business doesn't get safer because the owner feels concerned.
There it is. Concern isn't a control. And unless a task is assigned, dated, and checked, it doesn't exist. That's the real-world translation of these numbers.
Don't leave your business exposed. Hit subscribe and like the show. Stay informed and protected. Small business cybersecurity guide. Security tips you can trust. Subscribe now. Stay secure.
Right. If we're asking what actually hits businesses, phishing still runs the show. The survey says phishing was the most common kind of breach or attack, and it made up 69% of the most disruptive incidents. 69. That's the fact of the chapter for me.
And the other one that grabs you is phishing only. 51% of businesses that experienced a breach or attack said phishing and no other type. Last year that was 45. So more than half of breach businesses got done by just that one mechanism.
51. One trick, cleanly executed, and that's enough.
Yep, and this is where old advice is dying on its feet. For years, we told people, look for bad spelling, odd grammar, weird phrasing. That used to work well enough because scam emails were often written like a drunk photocopier. Now, AI writes perfectly decent bait.
Exactly. The spot the typo era is over. A fake invoice can sound like your actual supplier. A fake Microsoft alert can be cleaner than the real one. Tone, punctuation, structure, all fine. So asking staff to be a human spam filter against machine-generated persuasion is a losing game.
Wait, let's sharpen that. Are you saying user awareness doesn't matter anymore?
Not quite. Awareness still matters. People should be cautious. They should pause. They should verify weird requests. But the human is no longer the last reliable barrier. The technical controls have to catch what the person misses. That's why this chapter becomes an identity chapter, not just an email chapter.
And the survey gives us one good bit of movement there. Two-factor authentication adoption among businesses went from 40% to 47%, 7 points up.
Which still leaves 53% without it. More than half. The applause dies rather quickly, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's progress, but it's not enough. If attackers are getting cleaner at the front end, you need stronger locks on the account itself. MFA. Conditional access if you've got the licenses and know-how. Suspicious sign-in alerts. Account protection that assumes somebody will eventually click.
That line matters. Assume somebody will click. Because a lot of small firms still build their whole defensive fantasy on the idea that Karen in accounts will magically spot the dodgy message every single time.
And Karen's not the problem. The design is the problem. If one click means attacker in, mailbox rules changed, password reset, session token nicked, then your setup was brittle. Think of it like a shop door. Staff might accidentally let the wrong person into the hallway. Fine. But why does one mistake let them into the safe, the office, the till, and the filing cabinet?
That's lovely, actually. The click is the doorknob. Identity protection decides whether it becomes a burglary.
There you go. And this is why I get impatient when businesses spend on awareness posters, but won't spend 10 minutes switching on MFA. One of those changes your wall, the other changes your risk.
So the battleground has shifted. The trigger might still be phishing, but the real fight is over identity. Who got in, how easily, and what stopped them once they did.
Yes, and for small businesses listening, that's actually good news. Because identity controls are usually more practical than trying to train every human to outsmart a criminal with better tools than last year.
Right, 3 numbers, maybe 4. These are the ones that expose the gap between saying you care about cyber and actually managing it. First one, 22% of businesses said the most senior person responsible for cybersecurity did not know whether the organisation had cyber insurance.
22%. The person you nominated as responsible doesn't know if the cover exists. That's not a tiny paperwork slip. That's a blind spot with a direct debit.
And it matters because insurance isn't a magic umbrella. It's a contract with conditions. If you don't know whether you've got cover, you definitely don't know what would invalidate it. That's the bit that makes me wince.
There's something almost Shakespearean about that. I know not whether I am insured. A tragedy in one line.
Next number, 15% of businesses formally review the cyber risks posed by their immediate suppliers. 15. And only 6% review the wider supply chain.
6% after a year of supply chain headlines. That is the number that surprised me most. 6 feels less like a policy gap and more like a collective refusal to look at the plumbing.
And supply chains where a lot of people still go stupidly soft. Oh, that's our payroll provider. Oh, that's just the CRM firm. Oh, that's just the outsourced help desk. Just. If they can touch your data or your systems, they're part of your security story.
Let me make that concrete. If your booking system provider gets breached and your customer data spills, your customers do not care that the failure happened in somebody else's cloud. They know your logo, your invoice, your apology email. So 6% reviewing the wider chain is tiny compared with the real-world blast radius.
Third one, AI. 31% of businesses are using, adopting, or considering AI. Of that group, only 24% have any process or practice in place to manage the cybersecurity risks from AI.
So 3/4 are dabbling with AI and doing it with no house rules. No guidance on what staff can paste in. No checks on what data's exposed. No thought to whether the shiny assistant now has access to sensitive files.
This one's my pick for the most 2026 number, because it captures the exact pattern we've been talking about. Curiosity moves faster than control. Businesses are keen. Staff are experimenting. Somebody's using AI to summarize customer emails, or draft tenders, or clean up spreadsheets. Fine. But if you haven't set the boundaries, you've basically hired an intern and handed it the filing cabinet.
An eager intern with no sense of discretion and infinite confidence. Terrifying.
And then there's awareness of guidance. Cyber Aware was recognised by 30% of businesses. Cyber Essentials by 17%. The 10 Steps Guidance, 17. Cyber Governance Code, 16. And asked unprompted about advice sources, only 1% of businesses named the NCSC.
1%. The National Cyber Agency may as well be whispering into a storm.
Which is mad, because the guidance is actually decent. But what businesses use is another story. 44% of businesses sought external cyber or related guidance, and the most common source was external cybersecurity or IT consultants at 27%. In small business land, trusted local IT still beats official campaigns most days.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Owners ask the person they already ring when the printer catches fire. It's familiar. It's immediate. Government guidance can be solid, and still lose if nobody remembers the name or knows where to start.
Exactly. Which means, if you're an IT provider listening, you've got more influence than you think. And if you're a business owner, don't wait for perfect awareness campaigns. Ask awkward questions now. The stats are already telling you where the gaps are.
Want the deep dive? Check the sources. All the details, guides, and courses. Hit the blog for scripts and more. The Small Business Cybersecurity Guide.co.uk. The blog. Real security. No fluff.
Right, enough diagnosis. Here's the This Week list. First, turn on MFA everywhere you can, starting with Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, email admin accounts, payroll, banking, anything with money or identity attached. If you do one thing after this episode, do that.
And don't overcomplicate the first step. People hear identity protection and imagine a 6-month project. No. Open the admin console, switch it on, make sure staff are enrolled, test one account, then the rest. Cheap beats theoretical.
Second, confirm cyber insurance in writing. Not, I think our broker mentioned it. Not, it's probably bundled into something. Email the broker or insurer. Ask, do we have cyber cover? What does it include? And what conditions could invalidate a claim? Save the answer somewhere 2 people can find it.
Third, write a 1-hour breach list. Not a magnificent leather-bound incident response manual. 1 page. Who do we call? Who can reset accounts? Who speaks to the bank? Who speaks to customers? Where are backups? If the managing director is on a train with no signal, who acts?
That's a big one. And it's DIY friendly. You do not need to spend money to write down names, numbers, and first actions. You might want expert help later to improve it. Fine. But no small business needs to stay at zero because they're waiting for perfection.
Fourth, set basic AI rules. 3 lines is enough to start. 1. Don't paste customer personal data into public AI tools without approval. 2. Don't paste contracts, financials, or confidential internal docs. 3. If AI produces something important, a human checks it before it goes out. There. That's not a full governance program, but it's worlds better than vibes.
Fifth, review your 3 most important suppliers. Not all 47, start with 3. The ones with access to your systems, your staff identities, or your customer data. Ask them if they use MFA, whether they hold cyber essentials or equivalent controls, and how they'd notify you if they were breached.
Where do you draw the line between do it yourself and pay for help?
Good question. DIY the basics if you're tiny and reasonably organised. MFA, breach contact list, insurance check, simple AI rules, supplier questions. Pay for help when you hit technical uncertainty, legal uncertainty, or plain lack of time. If nobody in the business can confidently manage Microsoft security settings, get competent help. If you're handling special category data, health data, payment systems, get proper advice. If you keep saying, we'll do it next month, pay somebody to force the issue.
I'd add one more filter. Spend money where mistakes are expensive. Identity, backups, incident response, and anything customer data heavy. Save money on cosmetic nonsense. A lot of firms buy shiny awareness packages before they've even got MFA. That's like buying a fancy umbrella when the front door's missing.
Another mug. But yes, prioritise by impact, not by what sounds impressive in a board update.
And there is something quietly hopeful in this chapter, I think. None of these first steps require sorcery. They require decisions. Slightly boring, disciplined decisions.
That's the question I want to leave hanging. The fixes are often clear. The first steps are usually affordable. The guidance exists. So why do so many businesses still leave them undone until after the miserable Tuesday?
If this episode rattled you a bit, good. Not because panic helps, but because drift is deadly. Small businesses rarely get taken out by one exotic technical masterpiece. They get worn down by postponed basics.
Pick one thing and do it this week. Honestly, one thing is enough to start momentum. MFA, insurance confirmation, supplier questions, a breach list on one page. The trick is turning concern into calendar time.
And if you're the person in the business who keeps quietly carrying this stuff, perhaps send this episode to the person who signs the checks. Sometimes the most powerful security control is a decision maker finally hearing the numbers out loud.
If you found it useful, follow the show, leave a review, share it with another small business owner, and have a look at the blog for the checklist version. Next time, we're going to stay on the practical side and talk about incident response for firms that don't have an internal security team, because most don't. Until then, stay skeptical, turn the bloody MFA on, and we'll see you next time.
Right, before we let you go completely, let's have a quick chat about the boring but necessary legal bits. Don't worry, I'll make this as painless as possible. First up, and this is important, everything we've said today represents our own personal opinions and experiences. These views are ours alone and don't represent any organisation we work for, any employers, advertisers, sponsors, or anyone else who might be connected to the show. When we're giving you advice or sharing our thoughts, that's coming from us as individuals, not speaking on behalf of anyone else. Everything we've talked about today is for general guidance. It's meant to point you in the right direction, but it absolutely shouldn't be treated as professional advice tailored specifically to your business. Your situation is unique. What works brilliantly for a Birmingham bakery might be completely useless for a Manchester marketing agency. We do our very best to keep everything accurate and current, but let's be honest here. The cybersecurity world moves faster than a caffeinated squirrel being chased up a tree by Mauven's Jack Russell. Things can change between when we record and when you're listening, so always double check critical technical details with qualified professionals before you go making major changes to your systems. If we've mentioned any websites, products or services, we're giving you information, not necessarily giving them our seal of approval. We can't be responsible for what happens on their end or if things go sideways when you use them. Some things we recommend might involve affiliate partnerships. We'll always flag those when they come up because transparency matters. Now, if you're dealing with serious cybersecurity incidents, actual data breaches or gnarly legal compliance issues, please talk to proper professionals, rather than just relying on podcast advice. We're here to educate and help you understand the landscape, not to replace your security consultant, solicitor, or IT team. This has been a Small Business Cybersecurity Guy production. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved.
Signing off. Stay cyber safe no matter the cost. The Small Biz Cyber Guy says goodbye.